Well, welcome to the Red Room. Another amazing episode with another amazing guest. I'm your host, Shay Samuels. I'm happy to have you here with me today. As always, we have some amazing topics, some amazing guests, and you all leave with a wealth of knowledge. This show is about teaching you, helping you grow, helping you to really identify with who you are, whose you are, and what your purpose is. So today, this is not going to disappoint you. This show is not going to disappoint you today. We have the amazing Reverend Nathan Bartell on with us today. And the topic, you guys want to stay tuned for that. The topic is going to be amazing. I promise you that it's going to be amazing. But first, I'm going to introduce our special guest, Reverend Nathan Bartell. How are you, sir?
We're doing great today. Today is a wonderful day.
Yes.
God is good, and all the time he's good.
Yes, I love that because, you know, it the little things like that, Reverend Nathan, the little things like that, life is so short. I mean, we knew that when I was growing up that, you know, someone would pass away sporadically, but we're in the middle of a pandemic. You know, friends and family members are just leaving this earth left and right. So when someone is joyful about life, when someone is joyful about breath in their body, when someone is joyful, it's like, you know, it's not just that, you know, I'm blessed, I'm highly favored. Look, I am happy to be here. I'm happy to be here. So tell everyone who's viewing this show today who you are, what you do, and what they need to know about you.
Well, I'm Reverend Nathan Bartell, the lead singer for the Reverend Nathan Bartell Reality. We're a recording group out of South Georgia, and I'm also a pastor of Mount Olive AME Church in Osceola, Georgia. So I've been into the ministry quite a bit. You know, that's why I love that song that we push it now about every step of the way, because God has been with me every step of the way. I mean, from the bottom to the top.
Wow.
I mean, he's been with me every step, every move. You know, every day is not. You know, I know you always heard that termination about every day is not Sunday.
Yes.
So every day has its own.
Yes, and I love it. You know, I have to kind of mess with the pastors as they come on, the reverends, especially the ones who have that pastoral voice. You know, I said every day I'm from Southern Georgia, you know you're going to get some down home good cooking and you're going to get a good word coming out of Reverend Nathan Bartell and a good song, not to mention in a good song. I want to thank you for joining us today. We have an amazing topic for our viewers, and you know, I want to have some fun with this today because I think about my old school roots. I grew up, my grandmother was a reverend. My grandfather was the deacon who sat in the front of the pew or the front of the altar where my grandmother was playing his bass guitar. That became one of my favorite instruments. My aunt was on the drums, and she was the lead singer on the choir. Now it's praise and worship, but on the choir. And so I came from a family where we sang with the Southerners, and we sang with Jay Caldwell, and they were on the RVs going from one service to another all night, Reverend Bartell. All night. Here I am, this 6-year-old little girl on a RV. Back in the day, Channel 28 was our station, our local station, and my grandfather and his band would go on this show. And I don't know how I remember it, but I remember just that old school feel. You know what I'm talking about? That old school feel of church, where you knew that church was a family, where you knew that when you went there, you knew everybody. You knew all 6 of the people sitting in there. You knew all 6 of the people living in there, and they became my aunts. They became my uncles. They became my cousins. And, you know, and I, every now and then I have to give a shout out to our church, not New Mount Olive Baptist. That's the church that we went to as I grew older, but Paradise Baptist. Paradise Baptist was the church out of Wilmington, Delaware that everybody wanted to go and wanted to be. And now, you know, things have changed. And so I want to talk about that today. I want to talk about the old school. How do we, you know, want to get people kind of riled up on that old school feel of the church? What did the old school way of church, and I'm saying way, but what did that mean for you, Reverend Bartell, growing up in the church?
Well, at old school, I grew up in the church, you know, on the quartet and you know, back in the days, you know, quartet was really, it was all in all,
Yes.
and good quartet song, a good quartet song. See, quartet hasn't changed. The people
Ooh,
changed, and see, quartet always been that real traditional spiritual feel. It always had that original traditional spiritual feel, and,
yes.
and that's where it come from. Like for an example, I'm gonna take it back where the blues.
Yes.
The blues has a certain sound, and can't nothing change it. And
Ooh,
quartet is the same way. Quartet has that traditional sound, and back when the people were working in the cotton fields
yeah.
and the peanut fields,
Yeah.
singing them old Negro spirituals
Yes.
and all them hymns and all this kind of stuff. This is where everything came from.
Yes.
But but I like traditional as well.
Yeah.
But and I like praise and worship. You see what
Yeah.
I'm saying? But the roots of quartet. Quartet
I
is the
love
root
it. I love it.
of gospel music.
You
Yeah,
know,
it's there.
he's
It's
serious
there.
because he
It's the
said
roots.
quartet. He said,
That's
"Look,
it.
my grandfather's from New Orleans, and so he's from Louisiana. So he, a true quartet member when they say quartet."
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And you're so right. I want to say something about quartet groups that we as individual artists miss and we lack. Quartet groups, not only were they families, but they showed what unity looked like. Everybody came in dressed the same.
Yep.
They had their move. You go into a smooth move, Reverend Bartell. And when they go, if they got to spin, they all gonna spin on time, and they gonna come back, and they gonna end up going back into it. Yeah.
That harmony.
All that, yes. My favorite part of it when y'all go whoop, and then take it back, come back, whoop. But it is a thing of the past. And you said it when you started talking. Quartet hasn't changed, the people changed. And so how do we get back, not necessarily to what it was, but how do we reintroduce what was considered lost? How do we reintroduce it to this generation?
Well, this generation, the generation that we have now, see, they haven't really heard it. You see what I'm saying? Because they listen to hip hop, they listen to praise and worship, and this is all they hear. You see what I'm saying? So they don't really know a whole lot about the traditional gospel. You know what I'm saying? They don't really know where it came from.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying? But quartet is where all of it came from. All of it came out of quartet.
Yeah.
It came out of quartet. So my thing is that if you're gonna throw the quartet away, you throwing the music away. You know what I'm saying? See, because quartet, all those spiritual field words, it's just that what you call that I want to throw this in ZZ Hill back when he said dime home blues and all this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Hey, and see, I always said to my members, this is my term. Life is like a jungle sometimes, but it make you wonder just how to keep them going under. Because life is so uncertain. I'm saying it's so uncertain. You never know what tomorrow gonna bring. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah. And I know when we put those songs on, like, for those of us who grew up with quartet music, and there's other music, and I love that you are addressing the blues, jazz, all of the past music that have been forgotten because we wanted to introduce what we call new music or new life to the world. But I think, like you said, everything, even in the spiritual, it has a root. And unless you can dig down to the root, you'll never know where it comes from. A lot of you are dealing with problems and challenges, even in the family, and you don't know where it comes from. You haven't gotten down to the root of it. And so in past episodes, we talked about music and how music can heal. Those are certain things that you can go back into, and you can Google, you can research on YouTube, quartet. You can just type in quartet. The reason I chose quartet for this topic was because I realized that's my root. Every now and then I get to singing a song or recording a song, Reverend Bartell, and I realize some of that just kind of rises up in me. But a lot of us now as artists, a lot of us now, even the people who are hearing, we've been introduced to what's new. We've been introduced. And sometimes I'm going to use the word numb, but sometimes we come numb to what's new. So we don't want to even think about what was. I know that we're not supposed to think of what was in the spirit and the spiritual realm. We're not supposed to look back, but sometimes you can do that just to identify the root. Can you talk to us a little bit about when you first realized that not only does quartet mean something, it matters, but when did you realize it can really be a life changer for people?
Well, I learned this now. I hadn't always been a gospel singer.
Okay.
I sung R&B music for 27 years, and I all of my 70s and 80s R&B.
Wow.
And I just came into the gospel in the 90s.
Wow.
And I used to listen to all of those gospel artists, and the keynotes, in different groups, and I would just love if I would get that spiritual feel.
Yeah.
I would get that spiritual feel.
Yeah.
But I learned, God made a change in me. God made a change in me, and I thank God for it, because He made a change in me. Because it's a funny thing, when I first came out of the R&B field of music, I didn't know a whole gospel song.
Wow.
I didn't even know a whole gospel song, but God made that change in me. God came into my life, and He made a change, and He lifted me up, and He directed me in the way that He would have me to go. And I found out that when you say God work in mysterious ways,
yes,
I found out that He works in mysterious ways. I'm talking about ways that you never thought of, ways, the things that you thought He wouldn't have nothing to do with, He got His hands all over it. I mean, ways that you thought, things that you thought that He never dreamed of.
Yeah,
He got it in His palm, His hands.
Yes, sir.
God is just so awesome.
Yes, sir.
I found out He was an awesome God. I found out He was awesome. I'm gonna tell you this right here. I know time is running out, but when I was in R&B, I used to be on the stage thinking I could hear somebody turn the microphones off. I'm performing, turn the microphones off, all the sound will go dead. Wow. And then after a while, it'll come back on. So my musician would tell me, "Ain't nothing wrong with you, Nathan. You just drunk." No. I wasn't drunk. I was hearing this. I was hearing this. And I didn't realize what it was until after I got saved and start preaching God's holy word. And and that's when God told me what it was.
Wow.
He told me He was the one doing that. And but see, God worked in mysterious ways.
Yeah.
He worked in mysterious ways. That's why we got to learn to trust in Him.
Yeah.
We should trust in the Lord with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You got to trust in Him. You got to believe in Him. You got to let Him be your guide.
Yes.
You got to let Him be your director.
Yes. and what I love about what you're saying too is, it's going back to the basics, and that's what this is all about. It's about going back to the basics. There are a lot of people who are trying to find God where they see other people. But I encourage you, the viewers today, I encourage you to go back to the root. There's some shows out there, movies out there right now. The Black Church, definitely the Black Church, where all of where it emphasizes where the church began. What we have jumped into is what the world globally has made the church look like. And it's unfortunate because a lot of people, Reverend Bartell, they're missing it. And I love that you said that. You know, you literally have to, you have to hear one, the word of God, but you know what? You said there was something, there was a feel that was, it made me feel this way. And some people haven't had that feeling. Some people haven't had that touch. So I encourage you, you, the viewer, I encourage you today to go back to the root, because church is not all about going and just hearing praise and worship, clapping your hands or stomping your feet or just shouting. Church is not just about getting dressed and putting the perfect hat on or the perfect suit or the perfect dress. Church, well, first of all, First Corinthians talks about you being the church. So you are the church, but you are a part of the body, which makes you a member. So here's how important it is to you. Just like any workforce, you're going to have to learn your position.
Yes.
Go back to the roots. Go back to the roots. Before we go, Reverend Bartell, are there any words of encouragement? You've encouraged us a lot during this broadcast, but are there any words of encouragement that you have for someone who's jumped or tapped into what we consider the modern day church today, and what going back to what used to be that old school feel, that old school church, going back to that, studying it, loving on it, and living in it, what that can do for them?
You got to learn to stay focused on God. You know, Jesus said, I stand at the door and knock. Whosoever hear my voice and open the door, I will come in. Mm-hmm. Now, this door that he's talking about is not a wooden door.
Come on.
With a knob on it.
Come on.
That's not the door he's talking about. He's talking about your heart. Woo. He's talking about the door of your heart. Open up your heart and let him in. This is what he's talking about. And if we would just do that, he will come in.
Wow.
He will come in.
Wow.
If you just open up your heart and let him in.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? See, we so stout-hearted now, we think that we got everything going our way.
Yeah.
Everything is in our hand. Everything, you know, I can do what I want. I don't need this. I don't need that. But whatever you do, you need God.
Yes.
You need God. Like this pandemic. To get past this pandemic, we will not get past it without God.
Yes.
We not get past it without God. See, like I'm gonna say this all about all the people getting their vaccines. Some don't want to take a vaccine, all this kind of stuff. But remember, when you first start to school, it's mandatory that you take them vaccines and them shots before you kids can go to school. This is going to come to be mandatory, where you're going to have them vaccines in order to be able to live and survive, because you keep from
Yeah.
Funny thing. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, God is good. You just got to trust in God. It's all about God.
Yes.
He said, I'm the Lord thy God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. He said, thou shalt have no other God before me.
Wow. Wow. Well, listen, you guys have heard it here with Reverend Nathan Bartell. Look, I keep hearing time flies when you're having fun, but this was a great word of knowledge. This was a great inspiration for me. I've learned so much, even just talking to you, Reverend Bartell, and I believe that the viewers today, they have gotten what they needed. And if you have not, I promise you, it's because you haven't gone back to the root. Listen, this is another episode of The Red Room with your host, Shay Samuels, my special guest, Reverend Nathan Bartell. I want to thank you for coming on with us today. And thank you for blessing our viewers with your amazing, amazing, amazing testimony. I'm going to go ahead and close out and say we will see you all on the next episode of The Red Room. Bye-bye.
Bye. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you.
This is Paula G. Voice, Lady Wisdom with Own Your Own Power. At some point in time, we all may have been guilty of giving up our power. We've allowed the opinions of others to validate how we feel about ourselves. And in hindsight, it was not a good thing. We're so influenced by the perceived norms of society that we often cave to that trend. Sometimes the trend goes against what resides within us. We see things differently. We interpret things differently. We understand things differently. It reminds me of Noah in the Bible. Talk about owning your own power. Can you imagine how he must have felt day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year? He was a lone star. Now, it would have been understandable if he succumbed to the trend, the ridicule, if he had succumbed to everything around him telling him that what he was doing was crazy. Yet he had enough faith in his power and the higher power, and enough resolve within himself to press forward, stay focused, and maintain his power. Sometimes we have to stand alone in what it is that we believe in. Sometimes we have to go against the trend. Sometimes we see beyond the moment and discern a different outcome than what the majority may see. We have to stand in our own truth. Whatever or whomever you may deem to be a higher power will sometimes drop a nugget in your spirit, and that nugget may be a foreign concept to the majority. I think when certain common electronic devices were first introduced, they were a foreign concept. Some could not even have imagined utilizing such a thing, but look how we depend on those foreign concepts today. We each have the power to manifest those things that we desire in our lives. We all have dreams and hopes, things we have always wanted to do or accomplish. I'm a witness that it can be done. At times, it may seem unimaginable, but if you can visualize it, you can actualize it. I've had the vision of certain dreams that I desired to fulfill, and I took a day and simulated what it would be like to live in the manifestation of that dream. I jotted down what I thought would need to happen or occur to really make this dream come to life. It was a powerful exercise because it helped me to see that the manifestation was more realistic than I initially thought. If we've learned nothing else in the season of 2020, we've learned that life and time are precious. I say this often because it bears repeating. Life and time are precious. So we need to live now. Live for today. Do you have a dream? Something you desire to achieve? Visualize it. Walk it out. Write the plan. Begin the journey. Own your own power and manifest your dreams. I'm Paula G. Voice. I'm a sagacious, independent lifestyle influencer. I'm embracing my own journey and sharing experiences along the way. And I'm challenging dreamers to do the same by breathing life into their deferred dreams and living out the reality. It's never too late to embrace your journey and live your dreams. Visit Paula's blog at paulagvoice.com for the full journey. This is Paula G. Voice, aka Lady Wisdom, with Beyond the Moment. It's sometimes difficult to see beyond the moment when you're in the midst of a crisis. But sometimes the vision of being beyond the moment is the very thing that may be needed to get you through the moment. Our society is laced with so many overwhelming events. It seems like they come one right after the other, and they don't allow you the space to breathe or recover. We get so burdened, discouraged, and depressed that we often find it difficult to move on. There's a Bible verse that mentions weeping may endure for the night, but joy comes in the morning. Well, life can be like that as well. And the moment may be that of heavy times, but we must look beyond the moment with hope and faith. Look beyond the moment and keep hope alive. I'm Lady Wisdom, a sagacious lifestyle influencer, embracing my journey, sharing experiences along the way and challenging dreamers to do the same by breathing life into their deferred dreams and living out the reality. It's never too late to embrace your journey and live your dreams. Visit Paula's blog, paulaGvoice.com/blog for the full journey. This is Paula G. Voice, aka Lady Wisdom with Endurance. The unimaginable happens, and you have no idea how you'll make it through. Sometimes you feel as though you don't even want to bother. Yet we all have those moments at one point in time or another. There is life on the other side of that storm. Those moments when you must dig deep within and find the strength to endure. Rise from the ashes. There are those moments when you can't see beyond the moment. There are those moments when you don't want to hear. There's life on the other side of this, because your this is so traumatizing, you can't see it. How we choose to manage our circumstances is totally a ball that is in our court. We fall down, but we get up. We plunge to the deepest, darkest part of our being, but something inside of us longs to survive. We find ourselves fighting to rise out of the darkness. It's a slow journey, but we eventually see the light at the end of the tunnel. I always say that every day we wake up is an opportunity to set an example. It's an opportunity to change things. It's an opportunity to do better, to grow, and to heal. Someone made the analogy about eating an elephant one bite at a time. Now, literally, we're not in the habit of eating elephants. But when faced with inconvenient situations, impossible situations, we must take one step at a time, one day at a time. We all have endured some situations in our lives that has almost taken us to the point of no return. If we take our eyes off the moment and focus on where it is we desire to be, our goal, our destiny, we can take necessary steps to see our way through difficult times. Now, sometimes it may take therapy, prayer, meditation, and daily affirmations that help you make it through. Our lives are so full of difficult moments, but we must focus on the good times, the great events, the joys. As with any storm, tornado, hurricane that leaves destruction in its path, life goes on afterwards. Life may not ever be the same. Life may look different, but as long as we are living and breathing, we have life. Be encouraged and remember that each season of life that we come through makes us stronger. We have the opportunity to take what we have learned and help others through their difficult times. Give yourself credit. Be gentle with yourself. You can endure. You can overcome. I'm Paula G. Voice. I'm a sagacious, independent lifestyle influencer, embracing my own journey, sharing experiences along the way, challenging dreamers to embrace their journey and live their dreams. Visit Paula's blog at paulagvoice.com/blog.
life keep changing your direction. Sometimes the trials of life can knock you to the floor. So hold your head up high, God will lead and guide you. He won't leave you, so please hold on and never give up, never give in. You're closer to the top.
Welcome to those of you who are viewing and listening from around the world. We are so glad that you have joined us. This is My Journey with Paula G, where we are juggling this journey called life while walking in the gifts and talents that God has given us. And if this is your first time on the journey, welcome. We are so glad that you have joined us. And if you're returning on the journey, it is so good to have each and every one of you back. Because, you know, I always tell you all each and every week, time is precious. And we have really seen that in the last couple of years, just how precious time is. And it's the one thing that you cannot get back. So for you to think it not robbery to spend this time with us is truly, truly appreciated as we bring you testimonies and stories of our guests who are juggling this journey called life while they're walking in the gifts and the talents that God has given each and every one of them. And we are so appreciative of our underwriters who are embracing the journey by providing a platform upon which we can share these stories. And underwriting is really a great opportunity for those who have a business product or service to gain exposure for their business product or service while supporting the journey. And if you're interested in being an underwriter for My Journey with Paula G, you can email us at jerryroycelive@gmail.com or paula@paulagvoice.com. Place underwriting opportunities in the subject line, and we can have a conversation about how you can become a part of this journey. So we thank you all so very, very much. Each and every week, as we are having these conversations with our guests, a lot of you are reaching out and sharing with us just how encouraged and blessed you are by a lot of these testimonies and these stories and just the inspiration that you find, because sometimes you see yourselves in some of our guests. And that's the whole point of the show, is to let you know whatever's going on in your life, it's going to happen, because we all are juggling this journey we call life, but we still have these gifts. We still have these talents that God has given each and every one of us. So, you know, it's a matter of navigating the two. And if I can do it, our guests can do it, you can do it as well. All right. Well, before we bring on a guest, I want to share a bit of Paula's perspective. And I have an excerpt here from my book, which can be found on my website, and it is entitled My Journey to Lady Wisdom After Midnight. You can find that on my website at paulagvoice.com. Also, make sure you connect with me across social media, Paula G. Voice. And here we go. Our journey and who we are today is a summary of all of our life experiences. Who we are today is the manifestation of those life experiences, be they positive, negative, or somewhere in between. The person you are today is the sum of your journey. And I always say that who we are today and what we bring to the table is a manifestation of the echoes of our past, be they positive or negative. And sometimes we kind of have to peel back the layers, because sometimes there are things that have occurred in our past that we may not have resolved, that have manifested into a present thought process or behavior that may not necessarily be positive. We all have it. We're all guilty of it. But, you know, in the process of growing, and each day that we wake up and each day that we're breathing and opening our eyes, we have new opportunities. We have new experiences that contribute to who we are and who we become. So just know that each of us are a sum of those experiences. Each of us are unique. And as we move forward in life, my prayer is that we will gain the knowledge from those experiences to move forward in a positive manner so we too can embrace our respective journeys while walking in the gifts and the talents that God has given each and every one of us. So I hope that inspired you for today's Paula's Perspective. It is time for my guest today, and I am looking forward to this conversation. She is an award-winning filmmaker. She's a photographer, she's an activist, she's an author, and she's the author of My Beautiful Black Hair 101 Natural Hair Stories from the Sisterhood. And I can't not wait to talk to this young lady. She is St. Clair. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it is a joy. It is a joy. It is a joy. And we have a few things that we're going to talk about today. But the first thing I want to talk about, because I have a question. You have a BA in French and Francophone studies. Did I say that correctly?
You did, yeah.
Okay, what is Francophone studies? That's like the second time I've heard that.
Yeah, a lot of people ask me what that is. So Francophone is basically French speaking. So, French speaking countries, certain countries in Africa, certain countries in the Caribbean, parts of Canada, right? French speaking culture. So that's what Francophone is. And so the studies that I did in college were around France, but also all of these other places that have French culture.
So in all of these different places that have French culture, my daughter kind of learned this when she did her study abroad when she was in college with Spanish. In the French language, are there different dialects where you speak French, but you may go to another French-speaking country and you may not necessarily understand each other, even though you speak in the same language?
I think you would understand each other, but there's definitely different accents. And so
there you go.
Yeah. And so it can be a little difficult, for example, as a non-native French speaker like myself, the French that I learned was French from France. And so sometimes if I hear French from certain African countries, for example, that's a little bit harder for me to understand.
So it's like you said, the accents and perhaps the dialect.
Yeah, the accents and dialects change, but I think you can more or less understand
the basics.
Yeah, the basics. It's like American English and British English.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's a good analogy. There you go. You can definitely tell the difference.
Yeah.
You can definitely tell the difference. I've traveled to Europe. I've traveled to Europe frequently, at least twice a year. And it is so funny because one time we were at a store or something, and one of the British ladies asked what time it was. So I looked at my watch and it was like 6:15 or something. And the room just stopped. I'm like, did I say something wrong? And then somebody, said, "You're American." And I'm like, how'd they know I was American? And then I'm like, oh, I opened my mouth. Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, accent and the dialect is a bit different.
Yeah.
So share with us, for women of color, the hair journey has been a journey from the time we exited the womb throughout our lives, and as evident of the inspiration behind your book, your daughter Chloe. Tell us a little bit about her story and how that evolved into the book.
Yeah, so when I was finishing up my last semester of college, actually, I got a phone call from my dad who lives in France, saying that my little sister Chloe, who was only 4 years old at the time.
Your sister. I'm sorry, I said your daughter.
Oh no, that's okay.
Okay.
I'm almost old enough to be her mom. But so I got a phone call from my dad, and he said that my sister was being bullied at school by her majority white classmates, and they were telling her that her afro was ugly. And my sister came home from school crying. She didn't want to go back to school. And that was really heartbreaking for me, right? Especially because she was so young, only 4 years old. But as you just said, for Black women, this hair journey starts as soon as we come out of the womb, right? And society sort of feeds into us this narrative that our natural hair isn't good enough. And so I was really upset that, and I can show you a picture of my sister Chloe. Actually,
Oh,
here she is.
please. Oh,
So you can see she has this beautiful, beautiful
yeah.
hair. And I was determined to do something to let her know that her hair is beautiful, right? Because she wasn't getting those affirmations from her classmates. She wasn't getting those affirmations from mainstream media. And so I decided, well, I'm going to give her those affirmations, right? I'm going to make sure she knows there's this beautiful community of Black women with natural hair who love and support her.
Oh, wow. That, and that is so huge. And as I'm listening to you, I'm reflecting on, my generation and the generations before me who didn't have that, and how all of that, the negativity about our hair, how it becomes a part of that journey. I was speaking about before, we are some of our experiences and how that kind of manifests on us. And, a lot of us struggle with self-esteem and how we looked and so forth because of the hair. So for you to be an advocate and to take on the charge of planting those positive seeds and letting her know how beautiful she is, with her hair just the way it is such a blessing. That is such a blessing. So how do we come up with 101 ways?
Yeah. So when I started this project, I really did think it was just going to be something small for my sister. I thought I was going to interview and photograph a couple women with natural hair. But the more women I interviewed, the more I realized I actually really like doing this.
Mhm.
And I think that even though this project is for my sister, it's also for every Black woman and girl who's ever felt like she's not enough with her natural hair. And so I sort of kept on extending my little benchmarks, my goal points for how many women I wanted. So I remember thinking, all right, I'm going to get 50 women, right? That's a lot of women. And then I got to 50. And I remember thinking, actually, I'm having a lot of fun. I want to continue, because every Black woman's hair story, even though there's the shared experience, all of our hair stories are also unique, right? And every single woman who I interviewed added a new perspective. And so I just was sort of eating it up, and I wanted to hear all of these different perspectives and experiences and reasons why people went natural, and learning about how they personally found self-love. And so I ended up going with 100, and then sort of at the last minute there was one more woman who wanted to be a part of it, and so that's how it got to be 101.
Wow. What would you say, just in general, the age range from the youngest to the most seasoned? What would you say the age range is for the women that you interviewed?
So the youngest girl was 4 years old when I photographed her, so same age as my sister at the time. And the oldest woman was around in her 60s.
So you really had generations, the perspective of different generations of Black women, and how the whole hair journey has manifested. Can you, what would you say, if there is such a thing, was perhaps a common thread from a 4-year-old to a 60-year-old, if there was one? What would you say was a common thread, or something that you heard more common amongst them all?
Yeah, it's interesting how almost all of the women, if not all of the women I interview, went through some phase of hating their natural hair. And even the 4-year-old, I thought it was cute, but also sad. Even the 4-year-old that I interviewed, her advice to my sister Chloe, she said, Chloe, don't worry. I used to be like you once. I used to not like my hair too, right? But now I love my hair. So even by 4 years old, she had already gone through that experience of thinking that her natural hair wasn't good enough. And that's something that, the women of all ages, going up to women in their 60s, shared with me in the book, which I think is sad on the one hand, but then it's also really beautiful and powerful to see these testimonies of these women who have found self-love within themselves. And they've come to it in all different ways, but they're all there now, which is beautiful.
Wow. And as you're sharing, it just speaks to the negative power, I'm going to say negative, of the narrative that we're fed really almost from coming out the womb.
Mhm.
To have a 4-year-old to say what they don't like about their natural hair. So in being an author, book being inspired by your sister, book being inspired by your sister Chloe, you became an author.
Mhm.
In that process, you also were able to use another gift and another talent you have in the form of photography. Share with us a bit about the journey of the photographs and what you felt behind the camera, and if there were any particular experiences as you were photographing these women, that any particular experiences that speak to you or spoke to you.
Yeah, it's interesting that this was my first really time exploring photography. Actually, I'd done a little bit in the past, and my godfather is a photographer, so I'd borrowed his camera sometime, but this was, the first, I guess, professional photography project that I did. And so I learned a lot along the way. And I think one of the coolest experiences for me being behind the lens was actually zooming in on everyone's eyes, because I always do manual focus on my camera. And so I want to make sure that everyone's eyes are in focus. And so basically I take the camera and I zoom in just so I get to their eyes, and then I adjust based on there. And there's something about seeing people's eyes very up close like that just makes you feel really connected. And you know how they say eyes are the portal to the soul? And I really felt that when I was photographing women. And it was this really beautiful experience of being able to see everyone who I photographed, regardless of, these traditional beauty standards or whatever. I really felt like all of that went out the window for me when I was doing this photography, because every single woman who I photographed, when I looked at her through this lens, I was like, she's beautiful. And I had that experience for every single woman. And that was really nice too, sort of expanding my world. And it made me really start seeing everybody, not only in the women in my book, but everybody as just a beautiful human being, right? All of our physical features are unique and and beautiful. I don't know what other word to use.
What
Yeah.
an experience. What a powerful experience. As just your journey alone in putting this book together and what you came away with yourself is just powerful. So we have this wonderful book, and it's the My Beautiful Black Hair, 101 Natural Hair Stories from the Sisterhood. And then also there was a documentary, Documented. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I actually made that documentary called Documented during my last semester of college. It was the fall of 2017, and President Trump had just attempted to rescind the DACA program. And for those who don't know, DACA is a program that protects undocumented youth, so immigrants who came here as children but don't have any papers. DACA was a program that protected them from deportation and allowed them to have work permits, right, and other benefits. And so that was a really life-changing program for a lot of people. And when Trump attempted to rescind the program, there was a lot of fear and uncertainty about what was going to happen, and if these immigrants, many of whom only know the United States as their home, if they would be able to stay. And so that's when I decided, because I was taking this documentary filmmaking class, we had to do a final project. And I said, hey, I think I'm going to do a project on the DACA program, right? And so I interviewed nine DACA recipients from all different countries, Trinidad and Tobago, Zambia, Argentina, El Salvador, a couple other countries, and asked them just to share with me about their experiences and sort of what they were feeling in the moment. Yeah.
And I as I'm listening to you, it's causing me to reflect on my years as an educator. And having those experiences with those students who, you become really close to your students, and seeing the fear in them not being able to concentrate in the classroom for fear of, someone coming into the classroom, or when they get home, would a family member be gone? And when you really have that up close and personal experience, it really drives it home, in regard to, like you said, these young people, this is all they know. And, for that to be compromised, it's heartbreaking to see, them, in that situation. So thank you for bringing that to the forefront. Share with the audience how they can stay connected with you, your website, social media.
Yeah, so people can connect with me on Instagram, either at my name, St. Clair Dietrich Jules, or I also have an Instagram for Black hair specifically. That's My Beautiful Black Hair, just all one word. And then you can also find my book on my website, which is www.stclairdietrichjules.com, or www.mybeautifulblackhair.com. Again, all one word. And for Black History Month, actually, also my book is available at Target across the country. So you can also check it out there as well.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. And thank you for taking the charge for your sister and being an advocate, not only for her, but for so many, and providing a book from which women of color can draw encouragement, can draw strength, and for many, perhaps help them to how can I put it? Build their self-esteem, to plant the seeds of positive self-esteem, if you will. So thank you so much for joining us, and just blessings to you as well. And ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our show. We've come to the end of this particular journey. We thank each and every one of you so much for tuning in or listening. We thank our underwriters for your support of My Journey with Paula G, embracing this journey and giving us the opportunity to provide this platform as well. You can connect with me on social media, Paula G Voice, website, paulagvoice.com, email paula@paulagvoice.com, or jerryvoicelive@gmail.com. We thank you all so much for joining us. And remember that the greatest conversation you will ever have is the one that takes place in between your ears. What are you speaking to yourself? Is God a part of that conversation? And are you listening to his still small voice? Until next time, embrace the journey.
This is Paula G Voice, aka Lady Wisdom, with Everything Does Not Deserve a Comment. Now I'm preaching to myself on this one too. Everything, every interaction does not deserve a comment. Sometimes we just have to walk away, refrain from comment, posting, hitting send, leaving a fiery voicemail, etc. Sometimes we just have to let it be and not give energy to what would otherwise be labeled as foolishness. You remember when your little brother or sister, your child, grandchild, niece, or nephew had a temper tantrum because they didn't get what they wanted? Sometimes we just had to leave them there kicking and screaming on the floor until they wore themselves out and took an involuntary nap. Now, I'm not talking about those falling out in the middle of the grocery store tantrums. Some of us remember being scooped up and taken into the restroom for an attitude adjustment session with mama. Sometimes when we are dealing with out of control or offensive people, we have to realize that their behavior may not be worthy of any kind of response. Discern when to respond and when to walk away, figuratively and literally. I'm Lady Wisdom, a sagacious lifestyle influencer embracing my journey, sharing experiences along the way, challenging dreamers to do the same by breathing life into their deferred dreams and living out their reality. It's never too late to embrace your journey and live your dreams. Visit Paula's blog at paulagvoice.com/blog for the full journey.
This is Paula G. Voice, aka Lady Wisdom, with It's All There. Now, I'm by no means a theological scholar, but there are some aspects of theological history that bear notice. Countries that seem to perpetually be at war no matter how much other countries attempt to intervene and bring peace. If we turn back the pages of a Bible, a Quran, or other sacred book, we see what has happened since the beginning of time. It all makes sense. It's not pretty, but it makes sense. We are frustrated because after almost 2 years at the time of this blog, we are still dealing with a pandemic and asking the question, when will it be over? In the early biblical days, we see where a 40-day journey took 40 years due to lack of discipline, patience, obedience, unity. When will it be over? We now have instant experts on almost everything. Instant in that social media provides anyone with a thought a platform on which to share that thought in a manner that can be so convincing it can create great passion and belief in those who absorb this surface knowledge. In biblical times, ailing people didn't go to the money changers for medical attention, they sought the doctor. So I have to wonder if these individuals would be okay with a motivational speaker, a politician, an advocate, or otherwise instigator performing surgery on them in their hour of need. It's just a thought. I'm Paula G. Voice. I'm a sagacious, independent lifestyle influencer. I'm embracing my own journey and sharing experiences along the way, challenging dreamers to do the same by breathing life into their deferred dreams and living out the reality, because it's never too late to embrace your journey and live your dreams. Visit Paula's blog, paulagvoice.com/blog for the full journey.
Music.
Here come the boss lady, the Kelly Holland Show. Watch out, let's go. Here come the boss lady, the Kelly Holland Show. Let's drop it. Here come the boss lady, the Kelly Holland Show. Come on. She gonna get it right. Research all about your life. Her info's always tight. Talking just to get inside. Gospel talking, Bible walking, wanna help you see. Faith is calling and she's walking with the victory. The king is on her side and she never quits. Put you on the show and you reminisce. Creative to the point where she's making hits. Business savvy is a Kelly. Are you getting this? The Kelly Holland Show. I'm liking this. Kelly Holland Show. Come on, y'all.
Thank you so much for joining us today and welcome to the Kelly Holland Show. I'm so excited to have this newly opportunity given unto me, and I'm so even more excited to share all the lovely guests that come onto this platform. Today we have Mr. Jason Davis with us. Hello, sir.
How are you doing, Kelly?
I am well, and yourself?
I am doing excellent. It's a wonderful day. Excited to be here.
Glad to have you. I know you as the king of the Clubhouse app, but others should also know that you run the Jericho Force Enterprises. Give us some background on Jericho Force Enterprises and a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I started my business, Jericho Force Enterprises, back in 2017. And I started off doing one-on-one financial coaching with families and small business owners. And so I focus on, from a financial education perspective, a lot of people, they need those foundational pieces. A lot of people want to jump to the building wealth, but they don't have the foundation, and that's budgeting, saving, debt, and credit. You get those four, then it's a lot easier to get to, the fun stuff, Kelly, like real estate and the stock market. So I started off doing that. And then as I began to look at my data, I realized a lot of the people I was serving, they were small business owners. So I started to lean more deeply into that, and they would bring up other issues like leadership and management, things like that. So I morphed over time into just a growth-based platform. So now I just flat out, I help business owners grow so that they can reach their full potential. So that's a little bit about what I do on the Jericho Force side. I speak, I coach, I train, I do a leadership experience, and I assess behavior using the DISC personality assessment. And then just a little bit about me, married to my lovely wife of 5 years as of this past March. So excited to be, I always tell her we're in 5 dot now, 5 and counting. I know the folks that if you're watching this, you're going to say, those kids are just young. Well, hey, we're celebrating every step of the way. We met in college at Georgia Tech. So it's definitely possible to find your sweetheart in college. So very excited to be husband to my wife. No kids yet. We are in that season. But I just have a passion for people, passion for faith, and just helping folks. And so that's just a little bit more about me and what I do in my business.
Thank you so much for that quick bio. And it was impressive to know that you guys met in college and then still got married. That wink, wink to people. There was priorities there.
There was, absolutely.
I definitely understand that path. I too teach financial literacy. My main audience is youth and young adults. Of course, that's not a curriculum within their education, at least not in the public schools that I attended. And then when these young adults come out of school, they know that a job is needed. But just like you said, savings, debt management, being able to forecast your income and know no one's stealing from you, being able to save enough and only shop when you reach a certain goal instead of saying, I'm about to spend this whole check, and I'll get another one back. Girl, you're going to be broke for 3-4 days. I promise you spend that whole check. It ain't going to last. So, right. And that item you purchase is not worth it. We go through a lot of steps to finally reach their financial potential, especially young mothers and fathers. Some in middle school, some in high school, that I have to transition into the reality of this world, which is, money, security, and healthy spending habits. So I'm glad we have that in common. What do you think today's youth is lacking that is pertinent for the new world?
Oof, that is a loaded question.
I know you can go any way with it though. See how
I would say, and this is, the generations above them, we're partially to blame for this. I think because we live in an information age, there's Instagram, there's, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok, there's all this info. And I feel like the kids kind of get lost in the middle of all that. And so I feel like it's purpose, right? I feel like the kids need a sense of fortitude, a foundation. And because society, like I said, and we don't help, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to make a way, you got to be about your business, but they've got to understand who they are. And that comes from purpose. It comes from encouragement. It comes from telling them, hey, it doesn't matter the background you come from, the family you come from, you can do this thing. So I think that's a big thing plaguing our kids today. And I have the luxury of speaking to kids in different capacities and whatnot. And that's what I really see is just, we get so busy in this fast-paced world. And I think our kids are, though they're more advanced in dealing with things younger, but we don't just allow kids to be kids anymore, right? With this amount of connectivity and you got to do something, you got to make something of yourself. And along the way, Kelly, what ends up happening is that child is still developing. And we can inadvertently think that, oh, the kids, they're going to be fine. She's going to be fine. He's going to be fine. But they got to know who they are. And so we've got to be intentional about encouraging them and telling them that, hey, you can do this. You've got a community of people around you that can do this, whether that's supporting you in your learning journey, your career. I can't tell you the number of stories, Kelly, where kids, they remember this stuff. They get to the young, college, young adult age, and they remember something negative that a teacher or a coach or a parent, even, unfortunately, they remember that stuff and they take it to heart. And we can derail these kids for months and years to come. So Kelly, I'd say that's a big thing for today's youth is we've got to help them have a sense of purpose.
Correct.
And passion. Yeah.
I can't agree with you more. Even in my personal life, I had to come to the realization that my daughter does not want to go to college. There's nothing about her that wants to go into higher education. She'd rather go to trade school. She'd rather join the FBI or some type of criminal catching association. And I had to live with that. I come from education. I have a master's degree. They watched me go through it. My education didn't come until I was a full-grown adult with children. So they watched me go through it one degree at a time, AA, BS, MS. And I just knew my daughter was going to college. So we did all the research through careers, what schools could give her the information for that career. And she just came to me the other day like, Mom, can I just go to community college? I really don't know what I want to do. That was not a dig to me. That was her finding purpose within herself. That was her acknowledging that education is still important. That was her saying, I don't want to waste money. That was her saying, I've made my decision and I would like to be a liberal arts major for 2 years. And perhaps once I get all those gen ed creds out the way, I have a better idea of where, I would like to spend my career. I didn't think that was the traditional answer, but I did applaud her because she said, I'm still going to achieve a goal, although I don't quite know all the ins and outs. And that's also important in our life. When we set these goals, many times we don't have the wherewithal. Many times we don't have the resources. Many times we don't have the network, but we have intuition, we have will, we have guidance. And if you're spiritual like me, you have the Lord on your side. And so within that prayer life, it's much easier for the things to come to you as long as you ask God for it. Father, please help me break into this area of business. Lord, give me the network that I need to move forward. Help me reach the resources that are important to get to the levels that you want me to reach. And at the same time, I still have no idea. So we're going on faith, right? And we're going on the confidence that we have within ourselves or within God. And so when people can turn nothing into something, at least one time out of their life, that there is your miracle. It's not the burning bush you need to look for, sweetheart. It's the how this was achieved without me doing anything, or somebody just making a phone call and boom, it was done. Very little effort goes into the miracles that are given to us, and they're given to us because we needed a jump start. Do you agree or disagree?
Ooh, listen, Kelly, if you had a church and we're preaching, I would be right there.
And the Lord said, and the Lord said, grab your neighbor, I feel a shout coming on.
Yeah, listen, if you were preaching, I would be there. I can't agree more, Kelly, and I love the transparency that you shared with your daughter, and that is a prime example of mother and daughter having an open enough relationship as mother and daughter to come together and have a tough conversation about just the reality of things and where she's at and what she's trying to do. So I just want to commend you for having that conversation. And I believe with the support you're giving her and with her giving that confidence, that's part of her foundation. She's seen her mother, she's seen the path that you've walked. And then now she's, it was said to me years ago, everybody, the family, it's all one tree, but everybody has their own root, their own offshoot. They'll always be part of the tree. She'll always be part of your tree. So I love that interaction there. And it's those kinds of conversations I wish that every kid, every mother, daughter, every father, son, every father, daughter, every mother and son can have. Hey, mom, dad, this is what I believe that I can do. And I'd like to do this. And I feel like kids, even, in those formative years, even going into college, there's always, I feel like they're walking around these invisible signs of, mom or dad, do you approve? Is this okay? And so in that moment you brought,
I want to be something.
Or I want to be something. Yeah. So I absolutely agree. Kelly, you get me excited. I'm gonna tell you.
I'm excited.
I'll tell you that much.
All day, honey, all day. We
Yeah.
can do this. And I would love to come on to your show when it's up and running so we can continue on with the conversation. In my experience, especially in the Black community, we're taught when you're 18, you're moving out, you're on your own, you're an adult. I used to subscribe to that methodology and now I don't. I now see that it's too much of a struggle to have these financial burdens fresh out of school. And I believe in my household and for whomever I'm coaching at the time, that it's not important to get them out the house soon as they turn 18. It's important to make sure they are world ready, that they have the life skills. And that may require more time, maturity, that may require more of an adult relationship now that your child is growner and now that they have this older age, you can start to feed into them more of these adult situations and advice. And also help them to be financially prepared when it's time to leave. Sweetheart, you can move out when you finish college. You can move out anytime before you're 30. You can move out when you're 30. I really don't care the time limit. I want to make sure you are financially prepared. I want to make sure you are doing things in the right manner. Like you said, we went to college, we got married, we're having kids in this season. That's the exactly way it needs to happen. I don't need no teenage babies around here because you're still growing up, baby. You're still growing up and you need so much more help to get where you need to go now that you brought this new life into the world. Even although it's precious, right, that wasn't quite the order. And if that is your reality, that doesn't mean you're not able to grow. That doesn't mean you're not able to still do. It's just going to take you a little longer and it's going to cost you a lot more money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think kids need to be put out at the age of 18?
No, here's what's interesting, Kelly. I feel like you said, in our community, I don't know that we ever really took time to unpack that. I feel like, sometimes we just take things on out of tradition. And I'm not knocking, maybe for certain people, they needed to at 18. But if you look at the world that we live in and the student loan crisis and whatnot, I'm a big believer it's always ever taken a village. And so I think it's important in the Black community to step back and say, okay, well, first of all, where did that come from? Like, hey, when you hit 18, that you're gone, it's like, well, let's look at the origin. A, where did that come from? B, what does it mean for my household? Or depending on your household, it might be key word on might. It might be advantageous for that son or daughter to leave the house at 18. I don't think we can make blanket statements like that because every family is different. Right. And so I think we have to unpack what it means. What does it even mean to leave the house, period, whether that's 18, 25, whatever. And that means families coming together and talking about it. The Bible talks about training a child up in the way he should go. And when they grow old, they won't turn from it. So it's that spiritual foundation. It's a life skill foundation. It's a financial foundation. It's a values, principles foundation that they're getting in the house. And so depending on the circumstance, like, well, this child might want to go to community college, or they want to go to trade school, or they want to go get their bachelor's, or they have a plan like shortly after their bachelor's, they want to go get their master's. I think parents have to talk openly with their kids about it. It's okay to set goals. It's okay to change goals. It's okay to not initially know what you want to do. There are resources, and in talking things out, we can handle it together. So I'm more of the opinion, what's best for the family, not just what the community or what society is saying. And I don't think we can just make that any blanket statement. Oh, well, you know, Black people are supposed to do this. That's that societal, cultural pressure. And Kelly, you know this, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves and our community. Let's try to relieve some of that pressure, and let's look at our specific context based on my family, where I live, the city, state that I live in, what's going on emotionally, mentally, spiritually, what college is even on the table, what's the career plan for that child, how is the parent situation changing, you know, right, Kelly? Some people, you know, empty nest is a new dispensation for a lot of parents, whether you're a single parent, you know, mom, single parent, dad, or married. It's like, that's a, you know, everybody's like, hey, I want empty nest, but it's like, again, what does that look like? We can't just lean off of, well, they say, because they said in a magazine or on TV show or on the radio or on the podcast that empty nest is supposed to look this way. No, I think stepping back, what does it actually look like? The process of children leaving home, whether that's 18.
Like summer break. No, just that's why I'm laughing. I'm like, mine left yesterday.
Right.
But they're coming back.
Yeah.
That permanent push, though, that could be detrimental to some. It really can. Tell us more, and let's switch subjects a little bit about Jericho Force Enterprises.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I talked about earlier that I help business owners grow so that they reach their full potential. What does that mean?
Exactly.
Well, we take an approach that's three parts. We look at business growth, personal growth, and spiritual growth. So if you're followers of Christ, like, you know, Kelly and I, a big part of your growing in your business and being successful, and even your personal growth, maturing and changing, is your faith. And so you've got to have a faith foundation. So in my business, we talk about how all three of those are layered together. Yes, the business finances. Yes, the marketing plan and what systems. I'm big on that. On the money side, I teach on personal finance, but I also talk about the business finances and the systems that are in play. Do you have a way to take payment? Do you have a way to market what you do? And do you have a way to house the product or service? Do you have a website? Do you have a warehouse? Whatever that is, those are usually the three things you need to get going. And then there's the personal growth aspect, Kelly. So I do, one of the things I do in mastermind groups was just a peer-to-peer mentoring concept with a small group of people, 6 to 12 folks, because we unpack concepts like personal growth. And so I run masterminds on the 15 invaluable laws of growth, because we must be growing as people. One mistake we make, Kelly, is we just automatically assume that growth is going to happen. No, John Maxwell talks about the law of intentionality, and that means growth doesn't just happen. You know, some people, Kelly, unfortunately, they don't have 20 years of experience. They have the same experience over 20 years. Well, you don't want to do that. You want to be growing year to year. And that means there's something that I have to do. How am I handling life as it comes at me? How am I handling business? And then last but certainly not least, that spiritual component, spiritual disciplines. Am I in community? Am I reading God's word? Am I inviting the Lord into my place of work so that both my work and my soul can thrive? So those are the three areas we focus on: business growth, personal growth, spiritual growth. And then we do that again with speaking, the coaching, in groups. That's where the masterminds come in, trainings, various trainings that we do. One, I talk about the 5 E's of business engagement. What does it mean to have an engaged business from a faith standpoint and from a business standpoint? They go together. There's no compartmentalization. So we talk about that. And so that's what we focus on with speaking, coaching, training, the leadership experience, and assessing behavior. So Kelly, it's big self-awareness, right? You got to understand, in order to grow yourself, you got to know yourself.
Correct.
And so all of my clients, I have them take their DISC assessment so they can understand, hey, am I more introverted or am I more extroverted? Am I more task oriented or am I more relational oriented? And we talk about a personal development growth plan. Like, Jason, that's great. I'm a D and that's red. What does that mean? Okay, so here's some things. D meaning dominance. So here as a result of your assessment, here's what we can do. Here's how it'll help you grow personally, and here's how it impacts your business and the people around you. So that's what we touch on, Kelly. And even my book that I just launched back in March, Fortify Being Rooted in God's Plan for Work and Business. That's another resource that I help my business owners go through. Is like, hey, we got to integrate our faith into the work that we do. And here's some practical ways to do so with our values, with our leadership, with our finances, with our growth, with teamwork. I unpack 10 areas of work. So that's a little bit more about Jericho Force Enterprises. You're getting me going today, Kelly.
You know, I love it. I love it. I love it. And I like the business model that you set up. Quick question. What is your majority demographic?
Absolutely. So Christian business owners that want to live out their faith and the work that they do. And Kelly, just being transparent, that was new for me. Before I wrote the book, I was being obedient. Look, pandemic, we were sheltered in place. A lot of people were doing things, now all of us, we were eating some good food. We were hitting Uber Eats and DoorDash and all that. Well, while I was doing that too, God called me to write a book. And so I went to a conference about 60 days before everybody was really sheltered in place. And I was at a men's conference and God really spoke to me and said, Jason, this is what I want you to write concerning the business community and how to inject your faith into it. So it was a little bit of a pivot because in 2017 I was just doing
Voice,
one-on-one
aka Lady Wisdom with Invisible Wounds.
Saving debt, credit. But when
I
God
recently
tells you
heard
move,
a
look,
reference to
he says
invisible
move.
wounds.
So with the writing
And I
of the
recall a
book
former
and then the
school
other programs
administrator
that I've
reminding
added, he's really
teachers
calling me
that
to, hey, if
students
you're
come
a
through the
Christian
doors
business owner
daily
or
with
kingdom
an
business owner
invisible
or a
suitcase full
faith-driven
of baggage.
entrepreneur, that's who I'm serving.
Don't we all have some invisible
That's
wounds
beautiful.
or that invisible
I like
suitcase
you,
with
Jason.
varying degrees
I
of
like you
baggage?
too, Kelly.
Often we
I love to
subconsciously
be around
reveal
like-minded people.
what
I
is in
love
that
to hear
invisible suitcase.
their servant leadership.
We do so
I
through our
love to
behavior
hear the way
or
you
lack
give back,
thereof.
and the good Lord has provided
At the
you an
time of
income
this
from it,
reflection, the
for
country
you
is
and your
reflecting on
family.
the end of a
And that's
20-year war.
something out of nothing that I speak
And
of all the time.
9/11,
Over my
20
Tupac,
years
the
later.
Rose from Concrete.
There's
You
so
know,
many
like
of
how
us
did that grow,
coexisting
right?
with those
So,
invisible wounds.
right. And so
Invisible
and
wounds from the
just God's faith
battlefield.
overall, right?
Invisible wounds from
So
relationships
with our
destroyed
affirmations,
because
with
of
our
tragedies
intentions,
in combat. Invisible
things
wounds from the
definitely do
divorce
work
rate
out.
because of the
There is
many
nothing
challenges
that
of
anybody
wartime.
has thought about long enough
The invisible
that has
wounds
not
of how
come
the
to,
effects of
whether
the
it been something
withdrawal have
negative
left
or
many
positive.
military
It
and
seems like we
civilians who were
become
in some way
our
connected
thoughts,
to
and
this
we
longest
execute
war in
one way or
history for this
another.
country.
Would you be able to share
When
with
all
our
these
audience, and
events
I'm sure you
unfold,
are,
what
how
kind
they
of
can reach
triggers
you,
does it all
how
set
they
in
can get
motion?
onto your platforms, any and
We will
all,
most likely
and
never
where your
know
book is
because
being
those
sold as well.
individuals deal
Absolutely.
with it
So
all
my
in silence.
my website,
We must learn to not only be gentle with ourselves, but to
www.jerichoforce.com,
be
like the
gentle with
walls of
each
Jericho.
other.
So
This
jerichoforce.com
instant
is my business
society we
website. You can
coexist in
email
has
me
only
at
made it that much more difficult to
info@jerichoforce.com.
really
I'm on
understand
Instagram
others.
at Jason.
We seldom look or
N as in
inquire
Nancy,
beyond the
so at
surface.
Jason.
Our
N.
usual greeting to
Davis.
each other is,
I'm on Instagram. I'm
"Hello,
always sharing
how are you?"
content
Are we
what God gives me, how
genuine when
to
we ask
inject
the
your faith
question?
into your business.
If
So
there's an
those are the
indication that
primary
things are
ways
not
you can
going
reach out to
well,
me. And then
do we